A starving turquoise-skinned child snatches a Marine's last meal under a blistering alien sun, her eyes pleading for mercy he never expected to give. Jax Harlan mopped sweat from his neck as the twin suns hammered the construction yard. The Virelian colony build had been his grind for 7 months. Solid credits for a battle-scarred ex-soldier happy to toil on the galaxy's ragged edge. Under the merciless blaze of dual alien suns, a battle-hardened ex-soldier savors his rare Earth-imported meal, only for a desperate, turquoise-skinned orphan girl to snatch it away in a flash of fear and hunger, her pleading amethyst eyes piercing his soul and awakening an unexpected wave of compassion he thought long buried in the scars of war. Jax Harlan swiped the beating sweat from his weathered neck as the relentless, twin suns of the Virelian system pounded down on the sprawling construction yard like hammers on an anvil. The colony expansion project on this remote outpost had become his reluctant sanctuary for the past 7 grueling months, offering decent credits to a former soldier like him, scarred from countless interstellar skirmishes and content, to labor in the forgotten fringes of the galaxy, where no one asked too many questions about his past. The heat was oppressive, a dry, unrelenting force that seemed to suck the moisture from every pore, leaving behind a gritty film of dust that clung to everything. Lunch break, crew. Make it 30 minutes sharp, the burly site boss roared over the din of machinery, his voice echoing across the half-built structures that dotted the landscape like skeletal giants rising from the red earth. Jax didn't waste a second. He grabbed his battered meal kit from the stack of tools and made his way to his customary spot. A weathered, crescent-shaped rock formation in the bustling market square adjacent to the yard, where it managed to capture a precious sliver of shade precisely at midday. He lowered himself onto the cool stone with a satisfied grunt, his broad shoulders and back aching with that familiar, almost welcome burn from hours of hauling reinforced plasteel beams. His sleeveless combat shirt, faded from countless washes and repairs, adhered to his sweat-slicked torso, exposing arms corded with muscle and etched with the faint white lines of old wounds from his days in the interstellar marines. Reminders of battles fought on worlds he'd rather forget. He carefully peeled back the foil on his prized wrap, authentic Terra pork, smuggled in at a cost that devoured nearly a third of his daily earnings, but it was worth every single hard-earned credit for that taste of home in this alien hellscape. He closed his eyes briefly, inhaling the savory aroma before taking that first, glorious bite, letting the flavors explode on his tongue like a small victory against the monotony of ration packs. But peace was fleeting. A subtle scuff of bare feet on the dusty ground, a faint rustle that his trained ears couldn't ignore, jerked his eyes open in an instant. There, no more than 3 feet away, crouched a diminutive alien girl, her form small and fragile yet poised like a coiled spring. Her skin gleamed with an iridescent aquamarine hue that caught the harsh sunlight and reflected it back in subtle shimmers, almost like the surface of a distant ocean under storm clouds. Framing her delicate heart-shaped face was a wild tangle of snow-white curls that cascaded in unkempt waves, matted with the ever-present rust-red grit of the settlement's streets. Her enormous amethyst eyes, wide and luminous, fixed on him with a potent blend of raw terror and an aching, bottomless hunger that twisted something deep in his gut. She wore ragged garments in faded rose tones, torn at the edges and stained with the distinctive crimson soil that permeated every corner of this Keldari-dominated colony, marking her as one of the overlooked underclass. For one frozen heartbeat, their gazes locked, his surprised and assessing, hers desperate and unyielding. Then in a blur of motion too quick for her size, she lunged forward with surprising agility, her small hand snatching the wrap right from his grasp before bolting away like a shadow fleeing the light. "Stop, thief!" Jax bellowed instinctively, half rising from his perch before his military-honed instincts kicked in and halted him mid-motion. She was already vanishing into the chaotic weave of the marketplace, dodging between colorful vendor stalls laden with exotic fruits and tech scraps, her turquoise form blending into the crowd of alien traders and workers. His shiftmate, Grook, lumbered over with his usual heavy-footed gait, his thick tusks glinting in the sunlight as he scratched at one of his 4 burly arms. "What's got you hollering like that, Harlan? Sounded like someone just stole your last credit." "Some kid just swiped my lunch wrap," Jax muttered, still staring at the spot where she'd disappeared, a strange unease settling in his chest. Grook's trio of eyelids blinked in a synchronous rhythm, a quirk of his species that always made Jax slightly dizzy if he watched too long. One of those gutter sprites scurrying around the edges. Bold little pests. You want me to signal the enforcers? They could track her down quick enough. Jax hesitated, replaying those violet eyes in his mind. Eyes that held not just mischief, but a profound, haunting desperation. Something tugged at the edges of his conscience, a pull he couldn't quite shake. Nah, forget it. Not worth the hassle. Grook shrugged his massive shoulders, his lower pair of arms folding across his chest. Your call, human. But those scavengers are multiplying like rust mites in a damp hold. The council really ought to round them up and ship them off-world before they cause real trouble. She's just a damn kid, Jax replied, his voice coming out sharper than he'd intended, laced with an edge born from his own memories of orphaned youths in war-torn zones. Grook raised his upper pair of limbs in a placating gesture, his tusks clicking in what passed for a chuckle among his kind. Whoa there, easy now. I didn't peg you for having a soft spot for light-fingered urchins. Live and let live, I suppose. Jax forced a casual shrug, masking the turmoil brewing inside as he tried to brush it off. It was just a wrap. No big loss. But as he trudged back to the construction site under the blistering suns, his stomach rumbling in protest, the vivid image of those enormous, frightened yet defiant eyes lingered in his thoughts like a persistent ghost, refusing to fade even as he picked up his tools and dove back into the grind. It was 3 full days later when fate, or perhaps sheer coincidence, intervened again. Jax was navigating a shortcut through one of the settlement's labyrinthine service alleys, the narrow passages shadowed by towering storage silos and humming power conduits, when a fleeting glimpse of aquamarine skin and white curls caught his peripheral vision. The figure ducked hastily behind a rusted recycler bin, but it was too late. He'd seen enough to recognize her. Drawing on the stealthy precision drilled into him during years of covert operations in his Marine days, he circled around the bin with silent steps, his boots barely disturbing the fine layer of red dust on the ground. With gentle but firm intent, he reached out and captured a slender wrist in his calloused hand. Not hard enough to bruise, but secure enough to prevent escape. Didn't anyone ever teach you that taking what's not yours is a quick way to trouble? He asked, his voice steady and firm, yet deliberately softened to avoid outright harshness that might scare her further. The alien girl froze like a statue, her small body rigid with shock before she slowly tilted her head up to meet his gaze. Those same mesmerizing amethyst eyes stared back at him, now brimming with unshed tears that glistened like dew on violet petals, her entire frame trembling beneath his loose grip as if she were a leaf caught in a gale. And I'm so sorry, she whispered, her words emerging in surprisingly fluent galactic standard, her voice thin and melodic, like the distant chime of crystal bells carried on a breeze. Jax released a slow breath and crouched down to her eye level, making himself less imposing, his knees creaking slightly from the morning's labor. What's your name, kid? Lira, she replied, her voice still quivering, her body shaking as if expecting punishment at any moment. And where are your parents, Lira? Someone looking after you? The tears finally spilled over, tracing clean paths down her dirt-streaked cheeks. They're gone. The plague swept through last cycle and took them both. Jax felt a sharp tightness in his chest, a familiar ache from his own losses in the wars, friends, comrades, entire units wiped out in the blink of an eye. So you're out here alone, fending for yourself? She shook her head vehemently, white curls bouncing. Not entirely. My little brother Miko, he's only 4. He's been so sick, burning with fever and always hungry. That rap I took, it wasn't for me. It was to feed him something substantial. The pieces clicked into place for Jax, and he voiced the realization aloud, his tone softening further. You were trying to save him. Lira nodded, using her free hand to wipe at her eyes with the back of a grimy fist, smearing the tears into streaks. I've been scrambling for any work I can find. Odd tasks here and there, but no one in this Keldari settlement will hire a young Virelian like me. We're seen as outsiders, unwelcome intruders since the old trade disputes flared up again. Jax finally let go of her wrist completely and rocked back on his heels, taking a moment to truly study her. She was painfully thin, her limbs like fragile twigs that could snap under too much pressure, and beneath the layers of grime and dust, he could discern the telltale hollows in her cheeks and the dark shadows under her eyes, clear signs of prolonged malnutrition and exhaustion that no child should endure. Where have you two been staying? Some safe spot? Lira hesitated once more, her amethyst eyes darting around the alley as if fearing eavesdroppers. clearly torn between trust and the instinct for self-preservation, honed by survival on the streets. "Look, I really do want to help," Jax added gently, his voice low and reassuring, drawing on the same calm he'd used to talk down frightened recruits in the field. No tricks, no enforcers, just help. After a long pause, she relented with a sigh. "The old relay tower on the outskirts. We've claimed the top loft. It's abandoned and no one bothers with it anymore." Jax nodded thoughtfully, committing the location to memory. "All right, Lira, my name's Jax, and I think it's high time we got some proper food into you and Miko. Real nourishment, not something snatched in desperation." For the first time, a tentative smile broke through on Lyra's face, small at first but growing into something that transformed her delicate features from simply pretty to a heartbreakingly beautiful expression of hope and relief, like sunlight piercing through storm clouds. "You're really not angry about the rap? Not going to turn me in?" Jack stood up slowly, extending his large, calloused hand toward her in an open gesture of alliance. "Let's just say you owe me one. Come on." As they began walking side by side toward the market stalls, Jax couldn't quite articulate the surge of protective instinct welling up within him. A fierce drive that felt both foreign and deeply familiar. Maybe it was the raw vulnerability she exuded, a mirror to the orphaned kids he'd seen in war zones. Or perhaps it was the unyielding determination gleaming in those amethyst eyes, a will to survive against insurmountable odds that resonated with his own battle-hardened spirit. Whatever the source, he sensed his life, once a straightforward routine of work and solitude, had just veered onto an entirely unexpected path, one fraught with risks but perhaps rich with purpose. The derelict relay tower loomed ominously at the very edge of the colony's boundaries, its once imposing structure now a weathered relic, scarred by relentless dust storms and neglected by the march of progress. What had been sleek, angular architecture designed for interstellar communications was now pitted and faded, vines of invasive alien flora creeping up its sides like fingers claiming a forgotten tomb. Jax followed Lira through a narrow side hatch that creaked protestingly on rusted hinges, his boots crunching over fragments of shattered plastoid and discarded wiring that littered the ground like the remnants of a long-lost battle. The interior was dim, lit only by shafts of late-afternoon light filtering through cracks in the walls, casting elongated shadows that danced eerily as they moved. "We're almost to the top," Lira whispered, her voice echoing slightly in the hollow corridors as she led him up a rickety ladder that groaned under their weight, each rung testing Jax's trust in the structure's stability. The loft they emerged into was surprisingly tidy given the circumstances, a compact space that spoke of Lyra's resourcefulness. In one corner, makeshift bedding consisted of layered scraps of fabric and insulation foam, arranged with care to provide some semblance of comfort. Along the opposite wall, a neat collection of scavenged items was organized. Bent metal cups, twisted wires fashioned into crude tools, and even a few colorful stones that might have been toys or keepsakes. Near the bedding, a small bundle stirred faintly under a patched thermal cloak that had seen better days, its faded colors muted in the low light. "Miko," Lira called out softly, her tone gentle and soothing as she approached. "I've brought someone, a friend who wants to help us." The bundle shifted slowly and a tiny face emerged, peering out with wide-eyed curiosity. The boy shared Lyra's aquamarine skin and wild white curls, but his eyes were a deeper, stormier indigo, like the depths of a turbulent sea. His small cheeks were flushed a deep cherry from fever, and his breathing came in shallow, labored rasps that tugged at Jax's heartstrings. "He's been like this for 3 full days now," Lira explained, kneeling beside her brother with a tenderness that belied her young age, her hands gently adjusting the cloak around him. "I've traded whatever I could scavenge for basic antivirals, but they're not the right kind. They barely touch the symptoms." Jax set down the bulging food parcels he'd carried from the market and crouched next to the boy, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. "Hey there, little champ. My name's Jax. How are you holding up?" Miko regarded him with solemn indigo eyes that seemed far too wise for his years, before a weak but genuine smile cracked his fevered face. "You're peach-colored," he observed in a tiny, raspy voice that carried a hint of wonder. Jax couldn't help but chuckle, the sound rumbling deep in his chest like distant thunder. "Guilty as charged, kid. And you're like the ocean, cool and blue." "Aquamarine," Miko corrected with utmost seriousness, his small brow furrowing in concentration, which only made Jax laugh harder. a rare burst of genuine amusement in his otherwise guarded life. As Lira busied herself preparing a simple meal from the parcels, tearing open packets of nutrient-rich broth and soft protein bars, Jax took the opportunity to examine their living conditions more thoroughly. The space was relatively secure, with thick walls that muffled outside noises and only one entry point. But it was far from ideal for children, especially one battling illness. Drafts whistled through tiny cracks, carrying the chill of approaching night, and the air held a musty tang from disuse. No proper sanitation, no medical supplies beyond what Lira had bartered, and certainly no warmth or comfort to aid recovery. "How long have you two been holed up here like this?" he asked, his voice low to avoid startling Miko. "Almost half a cycle now," Lira replied without looking up, her hands steady as she helped Miko sit up against a rolled-up blanket to sip the broth. "After the plague claimed our parents, the local enforcers came knocking. They wanted to separate us, ship Miko off to some overcrowded ward for care, and force me into a juvenile labor program to earn my keep." Her voice hardened with resolve, a steel edge that impressed Jax. "I couldn't let that happen. I grabbed what little we had and ran before they could lay hands on us." Jax nodded slowly, empathy flooding him as he recalled similar stories from his military tours. Bureaucratic systems that treated lives like commodities, warehousing the vulnerable in places that were little more than prisons disguised as aid facilities. He'd seen the hollow eyes of those who emerged from such places, if they emerged at all. "That was a brave choice, Lira, smart one too. Those wards, they're no place for a kid. But this loft isn't much better for a sick little one like Miko," he added, gesturing to the sparse surroundings. "No steady heat, no clean water on tap. It's a miracle you've kept him going this long." Lyra's shoulders sagged slightly, the weight of her burdens evident. "We don't have many options left. Virelians like us aren't welcome here anymore. Not since the tariff wars escalated and the governor's new edicts came down. They're cracking down hard." She trailed off, her amethyst eyes clouding with worry as she glanced toward the small window slit, where the suns were dipping lower. "What kind of edicts? Spill it," Jax prompted, sensing there was more to the story. Lira lowered her voice even further, though they were alone in the loft, as if the walls themselves might betray them. "Population sweeps in the residential grids. Anyone without full documentation, refugees, off-worlders like us, is being rounded up and deported. Or worse. There are whispers on the streets about forced labor camps on the mining moons, places where you work until you drop and no one asks questions about the disappeared." Her eyes met his, raw fear shining through the determination. "We can't let them find us, Jax. They'd tear us apart." Before Jax could formulate a response, words of reassurance or a plan forming in his tactical mind, a distant hum caught his attention, growing into the unmistakable whine of security hover drones approaching from the colony's core. "Damn it all," he muttered under his breath, moving swiftly to the window slit and peering out cautiously. 3 official skimmers were pulling up outside the tower, their sleek hulls emblazoned with Keldari enforcement insignias, and armored officers were disembarking with purposeful strides, weapons at the ready. "They're here," Lira whispered, her voice cracking as she clutched Miko protectively to her chest, the boy's small body tensing in response to her fear. "How could they have tracked us so quickly?" "Probably just a routine grid sweep," Jax said, his mind already racing through escape vectors and contingencies, years of training kicking in like muscle memory. This sector was due for a check, bad luck on the timing. Miko let out a soft whimper, sensing the rising tension in the air, his indigo eyes wide with confusion. Lira hushed him gently, rocking him in her arms, but her own panic was etched in every line of her face, her breathing quick and shallow. Jax made the call in an instant, his voice calm and commanding. "Gather only what you can't live without. Essentials, nothing more. We're getting out of here now, but how?" Lira protested, her eyes darting to the ladder. "They'll have all the ground exits covered by now." Jax flashed a grin that was equal parts confidence and adrenaline-fueled recklessness, the familiar rush sharpening his senses like a blade. "Not all the exits, kid. I've worked on relay towers like this during my service days. There's always a hidden maintenance conduit for the old comrades. Narrow, but it'll do." Lira moved quickly, stuffing a small satchel with their few possessions. A water flask, spare cloth, the remaining antivirals. while Jax carefully wrapped Miko in his thermal cloak, the boy's feverish heat radiating through the fabric against Jax's chest like a small furnace. "This way," Jax whispered, leading them to a concealed floor panel he'd spotted earlier during his survey of the loft. He pried it open with a grunt, revealing a cramped vertical shaft lined with rusted rungs and dangling cables. "It'll be a squeeze, but it leads straight to the roof. From there, we can leap to the adjacent depot building. It's close enough." The thud of boots echoing up from the lower levels spurred them on. Lira slipped into the shaft first, her slender form fitting easily, and Jax handed Miko down to her before wedging his broader frame in, muscles straining as he pulled the panel shut behind them with a soft click. They climbed in tense, breathless silence, the shaft's confines pressing in like a vice, barely wide enough for Jax's shoulders to scrape against the metal walls. Every creak and groan of the structure amplified their anxiety, but they pressed upward, driven by necessity. When they finally pushed through a rooftop hatch, the alien suns were sinking low on the horizon, painting the settlement in long, crimson shadows that stretched like accusing fingers. There, Jax pointed to the neighboring depot structure, a squat warehouse he'd helped build months ago. "My worksite's supply hub. I've got keycard access, it's our ticket out." They made the precarious jump across the gap just as shouts erupted from below in the tower, their empty loft discovered, enforcers swarming like angry insects. Inside the cavernous warehouse, surrounded by stacks of crates and humming machinery, Jax secured the door and led them to a small unused office in the back, its walls lined with dusty shelves. "We can hole up here for the night," he said, exhaling in relief. "No patrols after hours. The site's locked down tight." As Lira carefully settled Miko onto a makeshift bed fashioned from soft packing foam and spare tarps, Jax leaned against the wall, the full weight of his actions crashing down on him like a tidal wave. He was now actively harboring undocumented Virelian refugees, putting his job, his residency permit, and potentially his freedom on the line. Charges of aiding illegals could land him in a penal colony himself. Yet, as he watched Lira tenderly wipe the sweat from her brother's fevered forehead with a damp cloth, humming a soft melody to soothe him, regret was the furthest thing from his mind. There was something profoundly right about this choice. A spark of humanity reignited in his jaded soul. "Thank you," Lira said softly after a while, looking up at him with those impossible amethyst eyes that seemed to hold the depth of entire galaxies. "You didn't have to get involved like this. Most people would have walked away." Jax sat down beside her on the floor, suddenly acutely aware of how small and delicate she was, her fierce protectiveness a shield against a universe that had been anything but kind. "Yeah, well, I've never been one for minding my own business when it counts. Trouble finds me, or maybe I find it. But why help us specifically? You barely know our names, let alone our story." He pondered that for a moment, staring at the flickering light from a small portable lamp he'd activated. "Where I come from, Earth, the core worlds, we have this unspoken code. You don't leave kids to scrape by on their own. It's just not what humans do, or at least not what the good ones do." Lira studied him with a newfound curiosity, her head tilted slightly as if seeing him in a new light. "Your species is truly strange, Jax Harlan. Full of contradictions. Warriors who protect the weak, loners who form unexpected bonds. You have no idea," he replied with a half-smile, his mind already churning through plans for their next move, strategies to get them to safety amid the growing threats. The night stretched ahead, filled with uncertainty, but for the first time in years, Jax felt alive with purpose. Miko's condition took a sharp turn for the worse as the night wore on. His aquamarine skin, usually vibrant, had shifted to an alarming bruised cobalt tone, and his breathing devolved into shallow, ragged gasps that echoed in the confined office space like warnings. Jax placed a rough hand on the boy's forehead, feeling the intense heat radiating off him like a malfunctioning reactor core. "He's burning up something fierce," Jax said, his voice grave as he withdrew his hand. "This isn't just a standard fever, it's escalating fast." Lira's face crumpled with raw worry, her amethyst eyes filling with fresh tears as she hovered over her brother, adjusting his position to ease his labored breaths. "It's the Azure plague, the same curse that claimed our parents last cycle. I prayed Miko was too young to contract it, that his system would resist, but I was wrong. Is there a cure? Something we can get our hands on?" Jax asked, his tactical mind already shifting gears toward action. Yes, but it's not easy. She hesitated, her voice breaking slightly. It requires a Virelian-specific treatment, cerulean serum, a specialized antiviral compounded with cobalt binders. It's only stocked in the central medical vault under heavy lock and key. Jax frowned deeply, rubbing his stubbled chin as he processed the information. The vault? That's the most fortified building in the entire settlement. Guards, scanners, the works. Governor Vexx keeps a stranglehold on all medical supplies to ensure loyalty among the elite. Lira nodded, her explanation tumbling out in a rush. Exactly. Caldari citizens get priority access, but for non-natives like us, Virelians, humans, anyone not in the inner circle, we're left to wait in lines that never move, or simply denied outright. It's part of the governor's control scheme using health as a weapon. Jax glanced at his chrono unit strapped to his wrist. The warehouse would buzz with activity soon as the day shift arrived, and they couldn't risk being discovered here. He made the decision swiftly. Pack up what little we have. I know a safer spot to lay low while we figure this out. 20 tense minutes later, after dodging early morning patrols through back alleys, they arrived at Jax's modest worker pod in the laborers' district, a sparse, functional unit with gray walls, a single bunk, a basic galley, and a small hygiene station, all secured behind a reinforced door. It's not much to look at, Jax admitted as he keyed in the access code, ushering them inside. But the building super owes me big from a favor I did him last month. Fixed his skimmer without reporting it. He won't rat us out. While Lira gently settled Miko onto the bunk, covering him with a clean blanket, Jax activated his personal datapad and began querying the colony's public databases for information on the Azure plague. What he uncovered wasn't encouraging. Without the specific serum, mortality rates soared to 90% in young patients, with symptoms progressing to organ failure within 72 hours. How long does he have before it's too late? Jax asked quietly, not wanting to alarm the boy further. Lyra's voice was barely above a whisper, her hands trembling as she stroked Miko's curls. 2 days at best, maybe 3 if we're lucky. Jax nodded grimly, his jaw clenching with determination. Then we have no choice but to hit that vault. We'll get the serum. It's impossible, Lira protested, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and dread. The security is impenetrable, drones, biometrics, armed response teams. Nothing's truly impenetrable if you know where to apply pressure, Jax interrupted, his voice steady. But I need to make a call first. Someone who might have the inside track. He stepped out onto the pod's narrow balcony, the cool morning air a brief respite from the stuffy interior, and patched into a secure encrypted channel on his comm device. After a few rings, a gruff voice crackled through. Harlan, what in the void's name are you calling me for at this ungodly hour? Better be good. Need a favor, Soren. Big one. Intel on the central med vault. Layouts, security rotations, the works. A long pause followed, heavy with suspicion. You got the plague or something? Why the sudden interest in restricted pharma? Not me, a friend in bad shape. Kid stuff. Tied to those missing Virelian orphans the enforcers are hunting? Soren let out a string of curses that would make a Marine blush. The whole colony's abuzz with it. Governor Vexx issued the order himself. Claims they're vectors for some contagion to justify the crackdown. Total fabrication. The vault's a fortress. Triple biometrics, patrols every 20 minutes. Auto turrets in the sub-levels. Got to be a back door. Soren, utility access or something? Yeah, there is. The sub-level utility spines running under the complex. But you'd need override codes to bypass the locks. Can you snag them for me? Another pause, longer this time. Maybe, but it'll cost you premium. That bottle of aged rye whiskey you've been hoarding from your Earth runs. The whole thing. Jax grimaced, the rye being one of his few luxuries, but he didn't hesitate. Done, send it encrypted. Back inside, Lira sat beside Miko, singing softly to him in her native Virelian tongue, a haunting, melodic lullaby that wove notes of sorrow and hope, twisting something deep in Jax's chest like a knife of empathy. We've got a way in, he told her, keeping his voice optimistic. But Miko can't come, he needs someone to watch him while we're gone. Lira looked torn, her face a mask of conflict. We? I'm not leaving him alone, Jax. You're not going solo on this, and you know the serum better than I do. The exact compounds, how to administer it. We'll team up. Her expression remained hesitant. We don't have a choice here, Jax said gently, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. And I know just the person who can babysit, a reliable doc. An hour later, after a careful trek through less patrolled routes, they stood outside a modest hab unit in the artisan's quarter, its exterior unassuming amid the colorful murals and craft shops. The door hissed open to reveal a human woman in her late 50s, her iron gray hair pulled into a practical braid, her eyes sharp and assessing like a surgeon's blade. "Jax Harlan," she said, one eyebrow arching in wry amusement. "Trouble seems to shadow you wherever you go. What mess have you dragged to my door this time?" "Evening to you too, Doc Valdez. Need your expertise, urgently." Her gaze shifted to Lira and the bundled Miko in her arms, softening immediately. "Get inside quick, before someone spots you." Inside the cozy unit filled with medical texts and herb pots, Valdez examined Miko with efficient, practiced movements, her portable scanner humming as it analyzed. "Azure Plague, advanced stage. He'll need cerulean serum mixed with cobalt binders to beat this. I can stabilize him with what I have here. IV fluids, fever reducers for a day, maybe 15 hours tops." She shot Jax a stern look. "You're planning a vault run, aren't you?" "That's beyond reckless," he nodded without apology. "No other way." "Idiotic, but that's your style," she muttered, already preparing a treatment area on her exam table. "The boy stays with me. You two try not to get yourselves killed. I don't do house calls for corpses." As they prepared to leave, Lira knelt beside Miko, her voice a whisper of promises and love, vowing to return with the cure. The scene, sister's devotion amid desperation, hardened Jax's resolve like tempered steel, fueling him for the dangers ahead. The sub-level tunnels beneath the central medical facility were a labyrinth of dim, flickering lights and the sharp scent of industrial disinfectant, mixed with stagnant air that clung to the skin like a film. Jax and Lira moved with ghost-like silence, following the detailed schematics Soren had transmitted, their footsteps muffled on the grated metal flooring that echoed faintly with distant drips. "The pharma storage vault is 2 decks above us," Jax whispered, consulting his wrist pad's glowing display. "We'll access it via the service elevator shaft, less guarded this time of night." Lira nodded, her white curls tucked securely beneath a dark cap to avoid detection, the oversized maintenance jumpsuit Jax had procured hanging loosely on her slight frame, making her appear even more fragile than she was. Yet her amethyst eyes held a steady, unyielding determination that matched his own, a quiet strength born from necessity. They reached the elevator shaft without incident, the only sounds their controlled breathing and the hum of distant machinery. Jax pried open the service panel with a tool from his kit, the metal groaning softly in protest, and helped Lira inside before following, his larger build making the entry awkward. The climb was arduous, hand over hand on the cable lattice, muscles burning with effort, but they managed it, easing the doors open to the pharmaceutical level with careful precision. "Security's lighter than I expected," Jax murmured as they slipped into an empty corridor lined with sterile white panels and locked doors. "Night shift protocol," Lira explained in a hushed tone. "Most Keldari require longer rest cycles than humans, their biology demands it. Fewer eyes watching." They located the storage room for specialized medications after a tense search, but Jax frowned at the reinforced security panel gleaming under the overhead lights. "Biometric lock, retinal scan, and voice auth. We'll need an authorized badge or personnel to bypass." Before they could brainstorm a workaround, perhaps hacking or diversion, crisp footsteps approached from around the corner, echoing sharply. Jax reacted instantly, pulling Lira into a recessed doorway alcove, pressing her small form against the wall as he shielded her with his body, his heart rate spiking, but his breathing controlled. The figure, a tall Virelian woman in a crisp medical officer's uniform, strode past their hiding spot without pausing at first, her presence commanding. Then she stopped abruptly, her head tilting as if sensing something amiss. Jax tensed, his hand inching toward the concealed blaster at his hip. The woman turned slowly, revealing striking features, high cheekbones that accentuated her elegant face, luminous skin that shifted subtly between teal and deeper sapphire hues like living art, and eyes like molten silver that pierced the shadows. Her white hair was styled in an intricate twist, professional yet graceful, and her uniform bore the embroidered insignia of a senior medical officer, denoting high rank. "I know you're there," she said, her voice melodious and resonant, like the harmonious notes of a distant symphony. "Come out now before I alert security." Jax weighed his options in a split second: fight, flee, or negotiate, and stepped forward cautiously, keeping Lira behind him for protection. "We don't want any trouble. Just need something from storage." The woman's silver eyes widened fractionally at the sight of a human in restricted territory, but she didn't flinch. What could a human possibly be doing in a high-security pharmaceutical level at this hour? "We need cerulean serum and cobalt binders," Lira said, stepping out from Jax's shadow with brave resolve. "Please, my little brother has the Azure plague. He's dying without it." Recognition dawned on the woman's face, her expression shifting from suspicion to understanding. "You're the refugee orphans the enforcers are scouring the settlement for." Her gaze flicked to Jax. "And you're the human who's been aiding them." "Bold move. Are you going to report us?" Jax asked, his stance tense. Ready for action if needed. To his astonishment, she smiled, a dazzling, genuine expression that illuminated her already stunning features, transforming her from authoritative to almost ethereal. "My name is Selene," she said calmly, "and I've been waiting for someone with the guts to challenge this system. Come, quickly before the next patrol." Minutes later, they were inside the secure pharmaceutical storage room, its shelves lined with glowing vials and sealed containers under controlled lighting. Selene moved with efficient grace, gathering the precise medications with the precision of a seasoned expert. "I've been compiling dossiers on the governor's corrupt policies for months," she explained as she worked, her silver eyes focused. "The deliberate denial of medical aid to non-Keldari species, the fabricated contagion alerts to mass deportations, it's all part of Vexx's power grab." "Why put your neck on the line like this?" Jax asked, watching her closely, impressed by her composure. Selene's hands paused briefly over a vial, her expression clouding with old pain. "My niece died last year from a treatable condition. She was denied serum because her husband was human, an undesirable union in Vexx's eyes. I couldn't save her, but I can fight for others." Her silver eyes met his, fierce with conviction. "Some causes are worth more than personal safety or position." As she handed the sealed kit to Lira, her fingers brushed Jax's in the exchange, sending an unexpected jolt of awareness through him, a spark of connection that made him acutely notice her subtle fragrance, like moonlit flowers blooming under a warm spice wind, exotic and intoxicating. "This dosage should cure your brother completely," Selene told Lira, her tone professional yet kind. "Administer it in 2 phases with the binder following the serum." She turned to both of them. "But you can't remain in this settlement. Governor Vexx has ordered a full purge of all Virelian refugees starting at dawn." "A purge?" Lyra's voice trembled, her face paling. "What does that mean exactly?" "Forced deportation to the penal mining moons." Selene's expression hardened, her skin rippling to a deeper indigo with suppressed anger. "Slave labor until exhaustion claims you. I'm joining you. I have digital evidence that could expose Vexx to the Galactic Concord, but I need to smuggle it off-planet safely." Before they could respond, alarms blared through the facility, red lights pulsing like a heartbeat of warning. "Unauthorized access detected. They've traced the entry," Selene said urgently, grabbing a data drive from her pocket. "We need to move now." They rushed back toward the elevator shaft, but heavy security doors were already slamming shut with mechanical finality, sealing off quadrants. "This way," Selene directed without hesitation, leading them down an alternative corridor she knew from years of service. "My personal quarters are adjacent. We can access an emergency exit from there." Her quarters were spacious yet minimally decorated, a reflection of her disciplined life: clean lines, a large hollow terminal dominating one wall, and subtle touches of Virelian art that hinted at her heritage. Selene quickly downloaded her compiled files onto a secure crystal drive, her fingers flying over the interface while Jax barricaded the door with a heavy chair for extra time. 5 minutes until they override the locks, he warned, checking his blaster's charge. Selene nodded, finishing the transfer with seconds to spare. As she moved past Jax to gather a few essential items, a medkit, a cloak, their bodies brushed in the confined space, sending an unexpected wave of heat through him. He heard her quick intake of breath and their eyes met, an electric spark passing between them. Mutual recognition of shared risk, unspoken attraction, a bond forged in the fires of defiance. "I've never encountered a human willing to risk so much for complete strangers." Selene said softly, her voice husky with emotion. And I've never met anyone quite like you, brave enough to turn against your own system for justice, Jax replied, his voice roughened by the intensity of the moment. For a brief, suspended instant, the blaring alarms faded, replaced by a different tension, a magnetic pull drawing them closer. Selene stepped into his space, her iridescent skin seeming to pulse with an inner light that matched the quickening of her breath. Virelians have an ancient saying, she murmured, her silver eyes locking onto his. Valor recognizes valor, even across the vastness of stars. The spell shattered with Lira's urgent voice from the doorway. The door! They're trying to breach! Jax pulled away reluctantly, refocusing on survival. Selene led them to a concealed wall panel that slid open to reveal a narrow escape passage, dusty and rarely used. This tunnel's to the residential district sub-level. We'll separate once out. Rendezvous at your safe pod in 90 minutes to avoid drawing heat. Jax nodded, memorizing the coordinates she provided. As they prepared to enter the passage, Selene caught his arm suddenly, her silver eyes intense with unspoken words. Thank you, she said simply, for reminding me that some fights are worth everything, even if it means burning bridges. Before he could reply, she leaned in and pressed her lips to his, a brief but electric contact that sent tingles racing through his nerves, warm and alive like a current of starlight. Then she was gone, slipping ahead into the darkness with graceful surety. Jax touched his lips, still feeling the lingering warmth and tingle of her kiss, a promise amid chaos before following with Lira close on his heels, the alarms fading behind them. Doc Valdez's HAB unit was shrouded in quiet when Jax and Lira arrived with the precious serum kit. The streets outside eerily silent under the enforced night curfew. Miko lay sleeping fitfully on the exam table, his fever still raging but held in check by Valdez's stabilizers, his small chest rising and falling in uneven rhythm. Just in the nick of time, Valdez said, examining the vials with a critical eye, his systems teetering on shutdown any longer, and we'd be too late. While she prepared the infusion with steady hands, Jax paced near the window, his eyes scanning the empty avenues for any sign of pursuit or Selene's approach. The curfew lights cast long shadows, amplifying his worry. She'll make it, Lira assured him softly, noticing his tension as she sat beside Miko, holding his tiny hand. Jax nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. The brief but profound connection he'd felt with Selene lingered like an afterimage burned into his mind, unexpected and powerful in its intensity. An hour ticked by in agonizing slowness before a soft, coded knock echoed at the door, making them all freeze in place. Jax drew his blaster smoothly, approaching with caution. Who's there? He called in a low voice. A friend who values human tenacity, came the melodic reply, unmistakable. Relief washed over Jax like a cool wave as he unlocked the door, revealing Selene, now clad in simple civilian attire that accentuated her graceful, lithe form, loose wraps in neutral tones that allowed for quick movement. Her silver eyes found his immediately, a small, knowing smile curving her lips. You made it, he said, holstering his weapon and stepping aside to let her in. Barely escaped the lockdown in the med district, she replied, her voice steady but edged with fatigue. She stepped inside, then tensed as subtle movement stirred in the shadows behind her. Jax reacted on instinct, pulling her protectively behind him as three figures materialized from the darkness. Virelians in nondescript gear, their expressions wary and alert, like operatives deep in enemy territory. Officer Selene, the leader addressed her, a tall male with intricate facial tattoos that glowed faintly in the low light, marking him as part of an underground network. We've been tracking your signal. Time was critical. Kyle, Selene acknowledged with a nod, her posture relaxing slightly. How did you locate me so precisely? We have our networks and methods, he replied cryptically, his eyes shifting to Jax with appraising suspicion. A human? This adds layers of complication we didn't anticipate. He's the one who saved my life tonight, Selene said firmly, stepping forward, and he's been protecting these children. Without him, none of this would be possible. Kyle studied Jax with undisguised wariness, his tattooed face impassive. The Resistance has learned the hard way not to trust outsiders lightly. Humans bring attention we can't afford. Then it's a good thing I'm not here begging for your trust, Jax replied evenly, his stance relaxed but ready, meeting Kale's gaze without flinching. The standoff tension hung thick in the air until Valdez emerged from the treatment room, breaking the moment with her practical demeanor. The boy's responding well to the serum already. He'll need the next dose in 6 hours to lock in the recovery. Kyle's expression softened marginally at the mention of the sick child, his eyes flicking to where Miko rested. We've heard whispers about the orphan siblings, part of why we risked coming. But our primary objective is you, Selene, and the evidence you've gathered for our contacts in the Galactic Concord. I have it all here, Selene confirmed, patting the crystal drive secured in her pocket. But the children's safety comes first. We can't leave them vulnerable. That may not be feasible, one of the female resistance members interjected, her voice sharp. Governor Vexx has accelerated the purge timeline. It kicks off at first light, sweeps everywhere. The revelation sent a chill rippling through the room, the air growing heavier with implications. Jax's mind raced through potential options, each more grim than the last. No safe havens left in the settlement. We have a supply runner prepped for launch in 3 hours, Kyle offered reluctantly. It can take the children, the doctor, and you, Selene. But the human, he's too conspicuous. Selene's silver eyes flashed with determination. I'm not leaving without him. He's part of this now. Kel hesitated, weighing the risks. Our priority is the evidence. Your testimony could topple Vexx. Bringing a human might jeopardize the entire operation. Jax stepped in, his tone brooking no argument. Then we all go, or the evidence stays here. Your call. A tense silence stretched, broken only by Miko's soft breathing from the other room. Finally, Kale nodded curtly. Very well, but we move immediately. Gather only what you can carry. Essentials. As the group bustled with final preparations, packing med supplies, cloaks, and the data drive, Selene pulled Jax aside into the small kitchen alcove. Away from prying eyes, her expression a mix of concern and something deeper. That was reckless, insisting on coming along, she said, though her silver eyes betrayed admiration rather than rebuke. You're putting everything on the line for people you've known mere hours. It's what humans do best, he replied with a half smile, trying to lighten the mood. We're a stubborn breed. Once we commit, there's no backing down. Her features softened and she moved closer, the air between them charging with unspoken electricity. Is that truly all it is? Mere stubbornness. Jax felt the pull acutely, aware of her proximity, the subtle color shifts in her iridescent skin, the intoxicating floral spice scent that was uniquely hers, drawing him in. No, he admitted, his voice dropping low. Not even close. Her hand rose to his face, fingers tracing the rough contours of his jaw with a gentle wonder, as if exploring uncharted territory. I've studied human physiology in my training, but never imagined this connection. She trailed off, her touch sending pleasant shivers cascading down his spine. Jax captured her hand in his, turning it to press a kiss to her palm, feeling her sharp intake of breath, which emboldened him further. We should rejoin the others, she whispered, though she made no effort to pull away. Her body leaning into his. We should, he agreed, but instead drew her closer, their lips meeting in a kiss that ignited like a fusion reaction. Intense, connective, transcending the barriers of species. Her skin emanated a gentle pulsing warmth that synchronized with her heartbeat. And where their bodies touched, a pleasant tingling sensation spread, alive and electric, binding them in the moment. Selene responded with surprising passion, her hands exploring the unfamiliar planes of his shoulders and chest, with a mix of curiosity and desire, fingers mapping muscle and scar alike. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, she began, Yeah, he finished, words failing to capture the profundity. A discreet cough from the doorway snapped them back to reality, Valdez regarding them with a knowing, amused glint in her eye. If you two are quite done with your interspecies diplomacy, we have an evacuation to pull off. Selene's skin flushed a deeper cobalt, but she composed herself swiftly. Of course, Doctor. Lead on. As they rejoined the group, Kyle was outlining the escape route with military precision. We'll use the sub-level utility tunnels to reach the starport. Our runner is disguised as a routine supply transport. Forged manifest should get us through. What about the security checkpoints along the way? Jax asked, forcing his mind back to the mission, though the warmth of Selene's touch lingered. We have hacked clearance codes, Kyle replied, still eyeing Jax with lingering wariness. "But your human features will stand out like a beacon. Stay low. Follow our lead. I can handle my own," Jax assured him. Lira approached then, carrying Miko in her arms, the boy looking marginally improved after the serum, his color less ashen though still weak. "He's awake now," she announced softly. Jax knelt to the boy's level, offering a gentle smile. "Hey, little champ. Feeling a bit better?" Miko nodded weakly, his indigo eyes brightening. "Are we going on a big adventure, Jax?" "Something like that, kid," Jax replied, ruffling his white curls lightly. "Think you can stay brave for just a little longer?" The boy's violet-tinged eyes were solemn, full of trust. "I'm always brave. Lira tells me so." "Then she's spot on," Jax said, his heart warming at the child's resilience. As the group made final checks, weapons concealed, packs secured, Selene sidled up to Jax, her hand finding his in the dim light, fingers intertwining with a natural ease. "When this is all over," she began softly, her voice a private promise. "We'll figure it out together," he vowed, squeezing her hand reassuringly. The intimate moment shattered abruptly with the sudden wail of sirens piercing the night outside, followed by the high-pitched whine of approaching security vehicles, their lights flashing through the windows. "We've been made," Kale hissed, drawing a compact blaster from his gear. Jax moved to the window, peering out and cursing under his breath at the sight of Keldarian forcers surrounding the HAB unit, their armored forms deploying with practiced efficiency. "Any other exits?" he asked urgently. Valdez nodded. "The basement links to the old aqueduct system, forgotten tunnels from the colony's early days. But they'll have it covered by now," Kale countered. Jax's mind snapped into full tactical mode, assessing threats and assets with the precision of his marine training. "Then we create our own way out. Follow my lead." As the others looked to him with a mix of doubt and hope, Jax felt the heavy mantle of their trust settling on his shoulders, igniting a fierce determination to see them through. He'd get these people, his people now, to safety no matter the cost. Because that's what humans did, protect their own, even when own expanded to include aliens who'd become family in the blink of an eye. "We need a solid diversion to pull their focus," Jax announced, his voice cutting through the rising panic as his mind cycled through tactical scenarios honed from years of battlefield experience. "Something big enough to draw them away from the basement access long enough for us to slip into the aqueduct." Kyle shook his head, his facial tattoos seeming to shift in the dim light. "They've got the entire building encircled. Drones in the air, ground teams at every corner. We'd need a major explosion or decoy to shift them off position." "Exactly what I had in mind," Jax replied, his expression hardening with resolute focus. "I'll head to the east side and create the distraction myself. Once they swarm to investigate, the rest of you ghost through the basement and into the tunnels." "That's straight-up suicide," Selene protested, her silver eyes flashing with a mix of concern and frustration, stepping closer as if to physically block him. "You can't take them on alone." "Not suicide if I play it smart," Jax countered, checking his blaster's energy cell with calm efficiency. "I know this settlement's layout better than most back alleys, industrial shortcuts. I'll lose them in the refinery district and loop back to the starport to link up." Valdez nodded approvingly, her practical mind seeing the logic. The maintenance conduits near the refineries do connect directly to the starport service bays. It's risky but feasible if timed right. "It's too dangerous," Selene insisted, her voice rising slightly as she moved even closer, her hand gripping his arm. "Let one of the resistance team handle it, they're trained for this." Kale's expression remained stoic, his arms crossed. "The humans got a point. Enforcers are primed for Virelians right now. They'll chase a lone human worker harder, assuming he's the weak link. It could buy us the window we need." The rationale was sound, a cold calculation of odds. But Selene's face twisted with reluctance, her skin pulsing with agitated waves of blue. Jax took her hands in his, feeling that familiar warmth flow between them at the contact, a soothing current amid the storm. "I'll rendezvous at Docking Bay 12, he promised, his voice low and steady. 2 hours max. Trust me." Their eyes locked in a silent exchange, conveying volumes. Fears, hopes, unspoken affections without a single word. Finally, she nodded, though every line of her body screamed opposition. 2 hours, she repeated firmly. "Not a second longer or I'll come looking myself." Jax turned to Lira, who watched him with wide, frightened amethyst eyes clutching Miko closer. "You take good care of your brother, all right? Stick close to Doc Valdez and Selene, do exactly what they say. Will you come back to us?" the girl asked, her voice small and vulnerable, echoing the innocence of her age. "Count on it, kid," he replied, ruffling her white curls gently with a reassuring smile. "I still have that rap debt to collect on, remember?" The quip earned him a tremulous smile from Lira, a small light in the darkness. The plan coalesced rapidly. Jax would exit via an upper window, generating noise to attract attention, while the others descended to the basement simultaneously. Valdez handed him a small, palm-sized explosive device from her medkit. "For medical emergencies only," she said with a wink, her tone dry. "It's not military grade, but it'll make a bang loud enough to draw them." As the group finalized positions, Kale covering the door, Selene and Lira with Miko prepped for quick movement. Selene pulled Jax into the narrow hallway one last time, her expression intense and urgent. "I need to say this just in case." "Don't," he interrupted softly, cupping her face. "I'm coming back. No in cases." "Humans and your infuriating certainty," she murmured, a ghost of a smile crossing her lips despite the fear. "It's both maddening and captivating." Before he could respond, she pressed against him, her lips finding his in a kiss laced with desperate intensity, deeper than their previous ones, more urgent, filled with the weight of potential loss and the budding emotions. When they parted, her skin had darkened to a rich indigo, pulsing with an inner light that mirrored her turmoil. "That's my promise to you," she whispered. "Now fulfill yours, Jax Harlan." "Yes, ma'am," he replied, his voice rough with emotion, stealing one last quick kiss before pulling away. Minutes later, Jax was perched at an upper window, the microcharge rigged to a drainage pipe on the building's opposite side. Kale signaled from below, everyone in position. Jax triggered the device remotely. The explosion ripped through the night, not massive, but in the hushed curfew silence it thundered like a storm's fury, flames licking the air and debris scattering. Enforcer vehicles and personnel converged immediately on the east side, shouts and beams of searchlights cutting the darkness. Jax seized the chaos, smashing through his window in a cascade of shattering glass, dropping to a lower roof with a roll that absorbed the impact. Shouts erupted as he was spotted. "Target sighted. Human male!" And the chase ignited. He ran with calculated recklessness, vaulting over rooftops and ducking into alleys, making himself a visible target to draw resources while maintaining just enough distance to evade capture. Blaster bolts sizzled past, singeing the air near his ear as he dove into a narrow passage. Too close, he needed to vanish soon. Behind him, the enforcers mobilized as planned, pulling away from the HAB unit. Jax navigated the settlement's maze with intimate knowledge. Every twist, every hidden shortcut deliberate, leading his pursuers on an exhausting wild goose chase that depleted their numbers from the original site. The industrial sector loomed ahead, its colossal processing plants and refineries forming a tangled web of pipes, tanks, and shadowy corridors ideal for evasion. He slipped between two enormous storage tanks, then dropped into a drainage channel beneath the refinery, the acrid chemical stench burning his nostrils as he waded through shallow sludge. Confused shouts from above grew distant, fading as he pushed deeper. For 20 grueling minutes, he traversed the sector's underbelly, emerging from a maintenance hatch near the starport's cargo zone, muscles aching but mind sharp. The port was on full alert, enforcers checking IDs at gates. Jax observed from shadows, plotting his entry. His comm buzzed. An encrypted message. Bay 12, service code 9514. Selene's work. He moved with feigned casual confidence, approaching a side service door. The code granted access to a narrow corridor toward the docks. Halfway there, a patrol rounded the corner. No hiding. Jax straightened, adopting the slouched posture of an exhausted worker. "ID," the lead officer demanded, hand on his weapon. Jax produced his forged work credentials. "Night shift at the refinery." "Just wrapping up, long one?" The officer scrutinized the ID, eyes narrowing. "Alert out for a human fitting your description. Harboring illegals, interfering with ops, yeah?" Jax feigned puzzled innocence. "What did the idiot do? Sounds like a fool." "Look, officer, I'm beat, double shifts all week. Just heading home." The officer paused, then returned the ID. "Move on, but stick to authorized paths." "Yes, sir," Jax continued, maintaining the act until out of sight, then accelerated. Bay 12 held an unmarked transport. He approached warily. A hatch opened, Selene's face appearing, relief evident. "You made it. Told you I would." Inside, the group waited, Lira rushing to hug his waist. "You came back. Promises kept," Jax said, hugging her before turning to Kale. "Status?" "Pre-flight complete. Launch ready. No hitches." Respect gleamed in Kyle's eyes. "Your diversion was flawless." Selene stayed close, her hand in his. "You're cut," she noted, touching his forehead wound. "Nothing." Her fingers lingered, warm promise in her touch. "We talk later." As engines hummed, Jax felt a profound rightness. Days ago, life was solitary. Now, fleeing with alien kids, fighters, and a woman who quickened his pulse. It all fit perfectly. The transport runner sliced into hyperspace with a gentle lurch, the Kildari system vanishing in streaked starlight. Escape tension eased into wary relief. "We're clear, no tails," Kale announced from piloting. Jax exhaled, adrenaline ebbing. Selene's hand found his, fingers lacing naturally. "Destination?" "Virelian outpost in Meridian sector," Kale said. "Compact, fortified. Concord allies there to relay evidence." Miko slumbered in Lira's arms, condition stabilizing with each serum dose. Valdez monitored vigilantly. "Fever's breaking, he'll recover fully." Lira's eyes shimmered gratefully. "Thank you, all." As others rested, Jax gazed at hyperspace swirls from a viewport. Selene joined, her warmth comforting. "Second thoughts? About ditching?" "No, all rushed, but..." He faced her. No regrets, her silver gaze penetrated. "You abandoned everything. Job, pod, stability?" "Replaceable," he said, tracing her cheekbone. "Some things aren't." Intensity deepened. She leaned in. "Jax!" Comm blared, Kale's voice tense. "Command deck now." A transmission screen showed a Kildari official in the plaza. "Due to medical theft and alien harboring, Governor Vexx orders all humans detained until fugitives surrender." Rows of confused humans, Jax's co-workers under guard. "Hostages for leverage," Kyle said. "Vexx desperate for evidence." Jax felt gut-punched, recognizing faces. "We act. Turn in?" "Suicide," a fighter said. "No, but can't abandon them." Selene gripped his hand. "Evidence first to Concord." "How long?" Jax pressed. "Days?" "They haven't." Silence fell. Valdez spoke. "Evidence needs credible delivery, not all. Eyes on Selene." "I'll go to Concord with Kale." "Evidence." "While I return for hostages," Jax finished. "Suicide," Kale protested. "Not if timed, surrender after investigation starts." "I'm with you," Lira said. "No?" Jax and Selene unison. Lira's eyes flashed. "Governor ignores I ID'd his med chief denying care. Testimony matters. Vexx won't harm a child publicly." Valdez nodded. "Point valid. Miko goes with Selene. His recovery proves discrimination." Plan formed. Selene, Miko. Resistance to Concord. Jax, Lira, Valdez back for negotiations. In cargo bay, Jax and Selene alone. "Not our planned path," she said emotionally. "Temporary," he assured, holding her. "We'll reunite post-Concord." "Be careful," she pleaded, framing his face, skin pulsing blue. "Return to me," he kissed her passionately. What followed was tender exploration, urgent claiming, harmony beyond species, a bond unbreakable. After entwined, she murmured, "Virelian bond defies death. Humans too." "Agreed." She met his eyes. "Find me, Jax." "Count on it," he vowed, kissing again. Hours later, parting. Miko waved. "See ya, Peach Man." Vessels diverged. Jax turned resolute. "Let's save humans." The plaza teemed when Jax, Lira, Valdez arrived. Enforcers ringed a stage where Vexx addressed robed authority. Fugitive Jax Harlan endangers all. Humans guarded behind, fearful. Jax knew them. "Time," he murmured. Valdez. "Stall. Concord transmission imminent." Jax advanced with Lira. Crowd parted. "Vexx seeking me?" Vexx faltered. Guards advanced. "Hold." Smug smile. "Surrender-wise. Negotiate releases," Jax said, ascending stage. "Innocence free. Quarrels mine." "No position," Vexx sneered. "Aren't I?" Jax challenged. "Sick child denied medicine? Orphans perished from policies?" Crowd murmured. "Lies." Vexx hissed. "Why falsify records?" Lira clear. "Parents knew, begged." Vexx slipped. Child nonsense, yeah, but Selene's evidence to Concord proves, Jax said. Seize. Vexx ordered. Commotion. Elder ascended with pad. Cease Concord matter. Elder Thorn, Vexx stiff. Internal. Concord orders investigation. Murmurs grew. Evidence received, Valdez whispered. Selene succeeded, Vexx furious. Absurd criminal's word? From Officer Selene, credible, Thorn said. Documentation supports. Human stepped. Soren. Humans speak. Years building together. Can't deny kids care. Agreements rose. Calderans joined. Virelian neighbor denied. Partner 2. Testimonies cascaded. Thorn to Vexx. Policies harmed all. Insurrection. Guards hesitated. Screens activated. Conquered insignia. Violations reviewed. Vexx suspended. Thorn authority. Showed Selene, Miko healthy. Jax's heart swelled. Detained released. Delegation arrives. Chaos releases Vexx detained. Jax surrounded gratefully. Lira clutched. Now? Wait for Selene, Miko home. 3 days, starport. Shuttle docked. Miko raced. Jax! Jax swung laughing. Good champ, Lira embraced. Selene joined, kiss volumes. Home. Later. Vexx trials. Reforms committee. I head med admin. Children? Joint guardianship if willing. Family? Already are, glancing kids. Official? Yes. Kiss sealed. Reflection. Stolen rap led to family. Lira tugged. Sandwiches Earth style. Jax laughed. Oh me, eyes twinkled. Suppose. Together bound by choice, profound rightness. Galaxy's unexpected gift.